The humming sound of engines filled the docking bay of Orion Station 7, a massive outpost floating between the stars. Humans had only recently joined the wider galactic community, and for most, this place was a miracle, a shining city in space where dozens of alien races worked together. For Ethan Cross, however, it was more than just a wonder. It was the beginning of his new life. Ethan stepped out of the shuttle, his boots clicking against the metallic floor. He carried a small bag, all that was left of his belongings after years of traveling from one mining colony to another. His eyes darted around as he tried to take in the station. There were humans, yes, but also tall insect-like creatures, glowing beings that floated above the ground, and others whose shapes he could not even describe properly. Despite the breathtaking sight, Ethan reminded himself of why he had come here. He was an engineer, good with machines, and the station had an endless need for people who could fix, repair, and understand. Back home, he had always been overlooked, but here he hoped he might finally matter. He made his way through the arrival gates and was met by a thin woman with sharp eyes, dressed in the gray uniform of the station. "Ethan Cross?" she asked. "That's me. Good, follow me. The science division has requested your assistance right away." Ethan followed her through winding halls, glass corridors that showed the stars outside, and elevators that carried them deeper into the heart of the station. His heart pounded with both excitement and nervousness. He had heard stories about aliens, how they thought differently, how they lived by rules humans couldn't understand. He wondered how he would ever fit in. Finally, the woman stopped outside a large lab door. "You'll report here from now on. The chief scientist will introduce you to your team." She gave him a brief nod and left. The door slid open and Ethan stepped inside. The laboratory was unlike anything he had ever seen. Walls shimmered with alien screens, shapes of light floating in the air displaying complex equations and star maps. Machines hummed quietly, glowing softly with blue energy. Several figures moved about, some human, some alien, all busy with their tasks, and then he saw her. She stood near the center of the lab, tall and graceful, her skin faintly glowing with silver-blue patterns that shifted like rivers of light. Her eyes were large and luminous, filled with depth as though they carried entire galaxies inside them. Her hair, or what looked like hair, flowed like strands of liquid crystal, shimmering faintly under the lab's light. Ethan knew instantly she was not human. He had read about her people before. The Silverians, a telepathic race known for their ability to connect minds. They were said to be calm, wise, and distant, rarely letting outsiders into their thoughts. Yet as Ethan walked into the room, her eyes snapped toward him. And then suddenly, she gasped. It was not the kind of gasp one makes from surprise at a loud noise. It was soft, almost like a breath stolen away. Her glowing eyes widened slightly as if she had felt something unexpected. Ethan froze. Hi," he said awkwardly. The chief scientist, a stout human man named Dr. Halden, clapped his hands. "Ah, Cross, you're here. Everyone, this is Ethan Cross, our new engineer. He'll be assisting with reactor maintenance and cross-species technology repairs." The others nodded politely, some barely looking up from their work. But the Silverian woman, she kept her gaze locked on him. Ethan felt his face warm. Dr. Halden continued. "And this is Lyra, one of our leading Silverian researchers. You may be working closely with her. She specializes in energy harmonics." Lyra inclined her head in greeting. Her voice when she spoke was like a soft melody. "Welcome, Ethan Cross." Ethan smiled nervously. "Thank you. I'm glad to be here." As his mind echoed with those simple words, he noticed Lyra's breath hitch again. A small, almost inaudible gasp left her lips. Ethan blinked. Did he imagine it? The first day was filled with introductions to equipment, safety rules, and technical systems. Ethan kept busy with tools, checking reactor models and learning alien interface panels. But every time he looked up, he caught Lyra glancing at him. And more strangely, whenever his thoughts slipped toward her, whether admiration for her strange beauty or curiosity about her glowing skin, she reacted. Sometimes her eyes widened, sometimes she stiffened, and sometimes she gasped as though his thoughts struck her directly. Ethan grew uneasy. Was he doing something wrong? During a short break, he sat at a console, rubbing his forehead. He muttered to himself, "Don't overthink. Just focus on the work. She's just different." But the moment he thought of her again from across the lab, Lyra's hand paused mid-movement. Her shoulders lifted slightly as if she had taken in a sudden breath. Ethan nearly dropped his tool. This can't be normal. Later, when the day ended, Ethan left the lab and wandered into one of the station's large viewing galleries. Huge glass walls looked out into the endless night of space, filled with stars brighter than any seen from Earth. He leaned against the rail, letting the beauty calm him. But his mind kept drifting back to Lyra. Why did she gasp every time he thought about her? Could she hear his thoughts? But weren't Silverians supposed to control their telepathy? If so, then why him? Why now? A voice interrupted his thoughts. You are? Unsettled, Ethan turned quickly. Lyra stood a few steps away, the starlight making her glow even brighter. Oh, I didn't see you, Ethan said nervously. She tilted her head slightly, studying him. Forgive me. My presence affects you? No, not at all. He hesitated, then sighed. Actually, I was wondering if I'm affecting you. Every time I think about you. He stopped, embarrassed. Her eyes softened. You have noticed, Ethan swallowed. So it's real? I thought I was imagining it. Lyra nodded slowly. Your thoughts reach me with unusual strength. More than any mind I have touched before. It is why I react. Ethan's heart skipped. But why? I'm just human. There are dozens of people here. Why only me? She lowered her gaze as though uncertain. I do not know. But your mind carries clarity, warmth. It strikes me without warning. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. Well, I didn't mean to bother you. If I'm making things uncomfortable, I'll try to control what I think. At that, Lyra looked up sharply. Her voice grew firm. Do not. Your thoughts are honest. Honesty is rare. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. The stars beyond the glass twinkled, casting faint reflections across the floor. Ethan felt something he couldn't name, a strange mix of connection and uncertainty. Finally, Lyra spoke softly. Perhaps there is more to this. A bond I do not yet understand, but I will not turn away from it. Ethan's chest tightened. He had only just arrived, yet something extraordinary was already unfolding. As Lyra stepped closer, her silver-blue patterns glowing brighter, Ethan realized that his journey on Orion Station 7 would not be about machines alone. It would be about her, the telepathic alien whose every gasp echoed in his heart. The following days on Orion Station 7 were unlike anything Ethan Cross had experienced before. Every corridor hummed with machinery and quiet alien voices, but for him, there was an undercurrent of tension he could not ignore. Lyra, the Silverian, researcher whose presence seemed to echo in his mind, appeared in his thoughts more than he intended. Every time he caught a glimpse of her, walking through the lab, adjusting a glowing console or reviewing complex schematics, her reactions startled him. She would pause, her shoulders stiffen, and sometimes, without warning, she would gasp. At first, Ethan thought he imagined it. Perhaps her species was more sensitive than humans, and his wandering mind simply brushed against her awareness. But it was not imagination. It was real. One morning, Ethan arrived early at the lab. The corridors were quiet except for the hum of distant machinery. He found Lyra already there, her silver-blue patterns glowing faintly as she adjusted a device. Good morning, Ethan Cross, she said, her voice like a soft melody. Good morning, Lyra, he replied, a little awkwardly. You're here early. I often arrive before others, she said simply. The day is more manageable and quiet. Ethan nodded, trying to keep his mind focused on work. But as he watched her move, he felt that familiar pull of curiosity and admiration. His thoughts wandered to the way her glow shifted with her emotions, the grace in her movements, the calmness she radiated. Then, as always, it happened. Lyra gasped, small and soft like a startled breath. She froze for a moment, her hands hovering over the console. Ethan blinked. Did I? She shook her head slowly. No, it is not you exactly. It is the resonance. The resonance? Ethan asked. Her eyes glowing faintly met his. When your mind thinks of me, it reaches me in a way I cannot fully control. Your thoughts, your feelings, they strike my mind as clearly as if you had spoken them aloud. My body reacts before I can guard myself. Ethan took a step back, startled. So, every time I think about you gasp? She inclined her head. Yes, it is unusual. Never have I encountered such strong resonance with a human mind. Perhaps this is rare, or perhaps you are extraordinary. Ethan swallowed hard. feeling both awe and nervousness. Extraordinary? Me? Lyra's glow pulsed softly. Yes. Your mind carries clarity and warmth. It is unfamiliar to me, and it is affecting me more than I expected. The words left him breathless. He had never been called extraordinary in his life. Not in school, not in work, not by anyone. And here was an alien, from a species renowned for intelligence and telepathy, saying exactly that. As the days passed, Ethan experimented quietly. He tried to think neutral thoughts, even thoughts of other things entirely. Calculations, work procedures, random images. And Lyra's reactions were minimal. But the moment he thought about her, whether he admired her skill, her presence, or her strange beauty, she reacted. Sometimes her shoulders tensed, sometimes she paused mid-motion, and sometimes a sharp gasp would escape her lips. Ethan felt guilty. He didn't want to overwhelm her, but he couldn't help it. His mind seemed to choose her despite his efforts. He spoke to Dr. Halden privately one afternoon, hoping the human chief scientist could explain. "Sir, there's something strange happening with Lyra," he said. Dr. Halden raised an eyebrow. "Strange how?" "Every time I think about her, she reacts. Physically. She gasps. She stiffens. I've tried not thinking of her, but—" Ethan trailed off, frustrated. Dr. Halden considered him carefully. "Ah, you're referring to Silverian resonance." "Resonance?" Ethan echoed. "Yes. Silverians communicate not just with sound or gesture. Their minds can sense thoughts, feelings, and emotions in others. Normally it's subtle, controlled, but sometimes a rare connection forms, and the Silverian cannot block the incoming mind. It's called resonance, and it is considered extremely rare, almost sacred." Ethan's eyes widened. "So, it's not just me imagining it?" "Not at all," Halden said. "If she is reacting this strongly, it means your mind and hers have connected. How or why, no one can say. But it is unusual, even by Silverian standards." Ethan's heart raced. He felt a mixture of fear and fascination. "So this bond isn't dangerous?" Halden shook his head. "It can be, if uncontrolled. Emotional overload can affect a Silverian physically, but it can also be powerful. Useful. You must be cautious." Ethan nodded slowly, processing the implications. "Cautious. Got it." Later, Ethan found himself working alongside Lyra on a small project involving alien energy harmonics. Their task was to align Silverian crystal emitters with human power conduits, a delicate job requiring precision. As they adjusted the emitters, Ethan caught himself staring at her, noting the way her patterns shimmered with every thought she processed. And inevitably, his mind wandered. Admiration, curiosity, and a growing sense of attachment. Lyra paused mid-motion, her hands frozen. A soft gasp escaped her lips. Ethan immediately looked up. "Lyra, She shook her head slightly, as if to dismiss the moment. "It is not your fault. You cannot help it. The resonance, it is as it is. I just don't want to overwhelm you," Ethan said. Her luminous eyes softened. "You do not. The sensation is intense, yes, but it is not unpleasant. Strange, perhaps, but it is not unwelcome." Ethan felt a shiver of relief. "So, you don't mind?" Lyra inclined her head, her glow pulsing gently. "I do not wish to stop this. Perhaps it is a bond, one we must understand." Ethan's chest tightened. The word bond sounded heavier than he expected, carrying both risk and promise. Over the next few days, Ethan tried subtle experiments. He would think a thought, hold it briefly, and watch her reaction. Neutral thoughts produced calm. Thoughts of work produced mild reactions. But as soon as admiration or curiosity crept in, she would gasp. And it was not just him noticing it now. Others had begun to observe. Whispers passed among human and alien staff alike. Some were fascinated, some wary. Ethan felt pressure mounting. "I can't just ignore this," he said to Lyra one evening as they stayed late in the lab. "People are noticing." She paused, her patterns glowing softly. "Yes, they whisper. They are cautious. They fear what they do not understand. You are extraordinary, Ethan. That is why they watch. He frowned. Extraordinary again? I don't feel that way. I feel worried. I don't want to cause trouble. You will cause no trouble if you act with care, Lyra said. Your mind is strong, your heart steady. The resonance flows naturally because of that. We need not fear it, only understand it. Ethan exhaled slowly, feeling some of the tension ease. Understand it? Right. That night, Ethan lay in his small quarters, staring at the stars through the observation window. He thought of Lyra, of her glowing patterns, of her calm but aware gaze. And once again, despite all his effort, he could not stop. In the silence of space, he whispered aloud, "Why her? Why me?" From somewhere deep in his mind, or perhaps it was hers, the faint echo of thought seemed to answer, "Because we are meant to learn from each other." Ethan shivered, the feeling of connection both thrilling and terrifying. He had no idea what the future held, but one truth was undeniable. Lyra had reached him, and he had reached her. And for the first time, Ethan realized that some bonds could not be broken, even by fear, distance, or logic. The mysteries of the resonance, the whispers of the station, the questions of the council, all of it would come later. For now, he allowed himself to marvel at the strange and wonderful truth. He had connected with a being from another world, in a way no human had before. And as sleep finally came, Ethan knew one thing with clarity. He could not stop thinking about her, nor could he ignore the growing certainty that Lyra felt the same. The hum of machines filled the lab on Orion Station 7, but Ethan Cross's mind was far from calm. He worked with tools in his hands, fixing a faulty energy relay, yet his thoughts drifted again, toward Lyra. He didn't mean to. He told himself not to. But every time his mind even brushed against her, her calm face, her glowing eyes, the soft tone of her voice, he saw it happen. Her breath would catch. Her hand would pause. A soft gasp would escape her lips as if his thoughts struck her like a wave. And every time Ethan felt guilty. He tightened a bolt with unnecessary force, trying to push the thought away. But across the lab, Lyra's shoulders trembled faintly. He froze. Did I do it again? Dr. Halden, the human chief scientist, looked up from his console. Cross, careful with that relay. If you strip the threads, you'll have to replace the whole unit. Right. Sorry, Ethan muttered, focusing on the machine. But even as he worked, he sensed the whispers. Two human technicians in the corner spoke softly, their eyes flicking toward Lyra and then to him. A scaled alien worker tilted his head, his sharp eyes narrowing. Ethan caught fragments. Every time he's near her, she reacts. Unnatural. Dangerous. He pretended not to hear, but the knot in his stomach grew tighter. By the end of the shift, Ethan stayed behind to put away his tools. Most of the others had left, except Lyra. She stood by a console, her glowing patterns dimmer than usual. You feel the eyes, she said quietly, not turning to him. Ethan sighed. Yeah, they've noticed. They will not understand, Lyra whispered. For my people, resonance of minds is rare. Sacred. If they believe it is happening between us, they will fear it. Ethan rubbed his face with his hands. What exactly is happening between us, Lyra? Because I don't understand it either. I just think of you and you. Her luminous gaze met his, and I gasp. She smiled faintly, though sadness lingered. Your thoughts reach me more deeply than sound, deeper than touch. They do not fade when I shield myself. They strike at the core of me. No other human has ever done this. Ethan's chest tightened. So we're bonded somehow? Like, linked? Lyra hesitated, then nodded. Perhaps. A resonance bond. My people speak of it, but rarely experience it. It is said to join two minds with unbreakable clarity. Ethan sat heavily on a bench, the words sinking in. Unbreakable. That sounds like trouble. Before Lyra could reply, the lab door hissed open. A tall alien figure entered, armored in dark plates that shimmered under the lights. His presence filled the room with cold authority. It was Commander Varric, a member of the Cathar species, rigid enforcers of rules aboard the station. His voice rumbled like stone grinding together. Ethan Cross, step away from the Silverian. Ethan stood slowly, uneasy. Commander, do not speak, Varric cut him off. His four dark eyes fixed on Lyra. You disgrace your kind, Silverian, to allow a human's thoughts to touch you so freely. Do you not understand the danger? His species is young, reckless, their minds are unstable. Lyra straightened, her glow brightening. Ethan has done nothing wrong. The bond is not his choice nor mine. It simply as Varric's gaze hardened. Then sever it before it grows. Lyra's lips parted, but no words came. Ethan clenched his fists. She just told you it's not that simple, he said. Varric's eyes flicked to him. You human will stay away from her. If you continue this connection, the council will hear of it, and they will not be forgiving. With that, the commander turned sharply and strode out, his heavy steps echoing in the hall. Silence filled the lab once more. Ethan exhaled slowly. Well, that was encouraging. Lyra's shoulders sagged. He speaks the truth of his people's fear. If the council believes this bond threatens balance, they may order us separated. Ethan frowned. Separated how? Lyra's gaze dimmed. By force. Perhaps even exile. The word hit Ethan like a punch. Exile, from the station, from her, from everything he had just begun to find. He shook his head. That's not fair. I didn't ask for this. Neither did you. Her eyes softened. Yet it is ours to carry. Days passed and the whispers grew louder. Wherever Ethan walked, he felt eyes on him. Some humans avoided him. Some aliens muttered openly. The rumor had spread. The human and the Silverian are linked. Even Dr. Halden grew wary. Cross, you're a good engineer, he said one morning, but this distraction with Lyra is making others uneasy. Keep your distance, at least while on duty. Ethan wanted to argue, but he bit his tongue. He didn't want to lose his place here, but keeping distance was easier said than done. Because fate, or maybe the council, had other plans. A week later, Ethan and Lyra were assigned to the same project, stabilizing a failing alien power core deep within the station. This is delicate work, Dr. Halden explained, handing Ethan a set of tools. The Silverian harmonics must align with our human systems. Cross, you'll handle the human side. Lyra, the Silverian side. Do not fail. Ethan and Lyra exchanged a quick glance. Both knew what this meant. They had no choice but to work together. The core chamber was dim, filled with humming energy. Blue light pulsed from the reactor, unstable and flickering like a heartbeat out of rhythm. One wrong move, and the entire section of the station could be destroyed. Ethan knelt by the control panel, sweat already forming on his brow. All right, if I recalibrate these stabilizers, it should buy us time. Lyra, can you sync your energy flow to match? Lyra placed her hands on a crystalline console. Her glowing patterns brightened as she closed her eyes. I will try. Guide me with your adjustments. As Ethan worked, his thoughts began to slip again. He remembered her standing by the stars, her voice calm and certain. He remembered her saying, I will not turn away, and then it happened. Lyra gasped. Her whole body trembled as though his thought had hit her harder than ever before. The glow of the console flickered wildly. Lyra, Ethan shouted, rushing to steady her. I felt it so strongly, she whispered, struggling to keep control. Your thought. It was like fire. The reactor's pulse surged dangerously, alarms flashing red. Ethan cursed under his breath. We don't have time for this. Listen, focus on me. Not on my thoughts, just on my voice. We have to stabilize this thing. Lyra nodded shakily, closing her eyes again. Ethan worked fast, his hands flying over controls. All right, aligning stabilizers. Now, feed your energy in slowly. Not too fast, steady. Lyra's glow pulsed, this time calmer, steadier. The console responded, its rhythm starting to match the human systems. That's it, Ethan urged. Keep it steady. You've got this. Her breathing evened. The gasps faded. For a moment, it felt as if his voice, not his thoughts, was the anchor she needed. Finally, with a final click of his tool and a flare of light from her console, the reactor's hum stabilized. The alarm silenced. The energy pulse smoothed into a calm, steady beat. Ethan slumped against the panel, letting out a long breath. We did it. Lyra opened her eyes, her glow warm and gentle. Yes, together. Their eyes met, and for a moment the world outside didn't exist. Despite the fear, despite the whispers, despite the commander's threats, Ethan knew the truth. Whatever this bond was, it was powerful, and it wasn't going away. But as they left the chamber, voices were already waiting outside. Whispers, questions, suspicion, and Ethan realized that saving the reactor had only drawn more attention. The others had seen what he and Lyra could do together, and some of them would never forgive it. The corridors of Orion Station 7 buzzed with uneasy voices. The whispers about Ethan, Cross, and Lyra had grown too loud to ignore. At first, The talk was only curious. People wondered why a Silverian researcher would tremble at a human's presence, why she gasped every time he looked her way. But after the reactor incident, when Ethan and Lyra stabilized the failing core together, the whispers turned sharper. Some called it a miracle. Others called it a threat. Ethan could feel it in every hallway. The stairs followed him, some filled with wonder, others with suspicion. More than once he heard the word bond hissed under breath. And it was not just the crew anymore. The station council had taken notice. Ethan sat in his small quarters, the hum of the station faint around him. He leaned on the desk, staring at a datapad but not reading. His thoughts circled endlessly. What is this bond? Why me? Why her? And what happens if they decide it's too dangerous? The door chimed. Enter, Ethan said. The door slid open and Lyra stepped inside. Her glowing patterns were dim, as though shadowed by worry. They will decide soon, she said softly. Ethan frowned. The council? She nodded. They meet tomorrow to speak of us. Commander Varric will argue we are dangerous. Ethan's chest tightened. Dangerous? We saved the reactor. Some will see that as proof, Lyra said. Proof that our bond has power beyond control. And power draws fear. Ethan rubbed his forehead. So what do we do? Sit back and let them tear us apart? Lyra's eyes shone faintly. I do not want to be torn from you. The words struck him deeply. He looked up, meeting her gaze. She had never spoken so openly. Then we don't let them, Ethan said firmly. If they want proof we're dangerous, then let's show them proof we're stronger together than apart. Lyra tilted her head slightly, as if considering his resolve. Then she nodded. There may be a way. The next day, before the council could meet, the station trembled. An alarm blared through the halls. Warning! Hull breach detected in Sector 9. Reactor instability spreading. Evacuation required. Ethan and Lyra were already moving before the message finished. The damage was far worse than before. A massive alien fusion core, one of the largest power sources on the station, had gone unstable after a hull breach from a passing debris field. Energy flared wildly inside the chamber, blue arcs striking against walls, threatening to tear the entire section apart. Dr. Halden shouted orders as teams scrambled. We can't shut it down from here. The harmonics are split. Human systems are clashing with Silverian technology. We need a sync or the whole sector is lost. Ethan and Lyra exchanged a glance. They both knew what that meant. I'll go in, Ethan said. Not without me, Lyra replied. Commander Varric stepped forward, his dark armor gleaming. No, the council forbids it. Your bond is unstable. You will make it worse. Ethan's jaw tightened. With respect, Commander, you've got no other choice. If this core blows, half the station goes with it. We can stabilize it, but only if we work together. The commander glared, but Dr. Halden nodded quickly. Let them try. We don't have time. Varric growled low in his throat but said nothing more. Inside the core chamber, the air vibrated with raw energy. Blue lightning crackled across the walls, and the central reactor pulsed like a beating heart out of control. Ethan gripped his toolkit, but his palms were slick with sweat. All right. You take the harmonic interface. I'll stabilize the human regulators. Lyra placed her hands on the Silverian console, her glowing skin brightening under the surging energy. Guide me with your thoughts. I cannot see your systems, but I can feel you. Ethan swallowed hard. Right. Let's do this. He knelt by the human panel, typing commands and adjusting settings. But the readings jumped wildly, refusing to settle. It's not syncing, he muttered. The systems aren't speaking the same language. Then let us speak for them, Lyra said softly. She closed her eyes. Ethan felt it instantly, the touch of her mind against his. Clearer than before, stronger. His every thought echoed between them. You are afraid, her voice whispered in his mind. Of failing, Ethan admitted silently, of losing you. She gasped softly, her hands trembling on the console. But instead of faltering, her glow brightened. Then trust me, and I will trust you. The bond surged. Ethan felt her calm wash over him, guiding his hands. She felt his determination, steadying her focus. Together, their thoughts aligned, and the machines responded. The human system shifted, bending toward the Silverian harmonics. The Silverian flows adjusted, softening toward the human regulators. Slowly, impossibly, the two technologies began to merge into one rhythm. The reactor's pulse steadied. The wild arcs of energy dimmed. The roar softened to a hum. Ethan's heart raced, not from fear but from wonder. We're doing it. Lyra opened her eyes, glowing brighter than ever. Yes, together. But just as stability seemed within reach, a violent surge ripped through the chamber. The reactor flared, sending a shockwave that knocked Ethan backward. His head slammed against the floor, stars bursting in his vision. "Ethan!" Lyra cried, her voice breaking through both sound and thought. Through the haze, he felt her fear flooding the bond, overwhelming and raw. "Don't stop," he thought desperately, forcing his mind to reach hers. "Finish it, you can do this. I'm still here." Her gasp was sharp, but then her fear turned into fire. She pressed both hands to the console, pouring every ounce of her energy into the harmonics. The console blazed with light. Ethan forced himself up, blood on his brow, and staggered back to his panel. His hands shook, but Lyra's strength filled his thoughts, steadying him. Together, with one final adjustment, the systems clicked into perfect sync. The reactor gave a deep, resonant hum, and then calmed. The light softened to a steady glow. The danger was gone. Ethan collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath. Lyra stumbled toward him, kneeling by his side. "You are hurt," she whispered, her glowing fingers brushing gently against his temple. Ethan managed a weak smile. "I've been worse, but we did it." Her eyes shone, full of relief. "Yes, because you trusted me, and I trusted you." For a long moment they sat there in silence, their bond stronger than ever. The whispers, the counsel, the fear, they all faded. All that mattered was the connection between them. When they emerged from the chamber, the others stared in awe. The reactor was stable. The sector was saved. Dr. Halden rushed forward. "Incredible. I thought we'd lose everything." But Commander Varick's face was dark. His 4 eyes narrowed at them. "This proves nothing. Your bond is unstable. Today it saved us. Tomorrow it may destroy us." Lyra stood tall, her glow steady. "No, it proves that our bond is not weakness. It is strength. Together we did what no machine and no council could," Ethan added firmly. "You can fear us if you want, but you can't deny what we just did." The room was silent. Some faces looked doubtful. Others looked inspired. And though the council's judgment still awaited, one truth was clear to Ethan. Whatever came next, he and Lyra were no longer just 2 individuals. They were one bond, tested in fire and unbroken. The council chamber of Orion Station 7 was vast and imposing, its walls of polished metal stretching high into the ceiling. Dozens of representatives from every species on the station gathered there, their eyes sharp, their expressions unreadable. Ethan Cross felt the weight of every gaze as he entered, Lyra at his side. Her silver-blue glow pulsed softly, reflecting the tension in the room. He could sense her nerves, but beneath it was a calm determination, the same determination that had saved the reactor earlier. Commander Varick stepped forward, as rigid as ever, his armor gleaming under the chamber lights. "Council members, these humans, and Silverians, are a threat. Their bond is unnatural. It cannot be controlled. We recommend immediate separation and monitoring." A murmur spread through the chamber. Some nodded in agreement while others frowned, clearly uncertain. Dr. Halden stood from the human delegation. "With respect, Commander, the evidence shows the opposite. This bond, tested under extreme conditions, allowed them to stabilize a reactor that could have destroyed half the station. The bond is not a weakness, it is strength." Ethan swallowed, feeling the tension rise. The Council's decisions had shaped the future of the station countless times before. And now, the fate of him and Lyra rested entirely in their hands. The lead counselor, a tall, wise-looking alien named Alara, gestured for silence. Her 4 eyes, calm and patient, scanned the chamber. "We are here not to punish, but to understand. Explain, then, how this human-Silverian bond works." Lyra stepped forward, her glow steady. "Our minds are connected through resonance. His thoughts reach me more deeply than any human or alien mind has before. It is not by choice, and it is not dangerous when handled with care. Together we can accomplish tasks neither could do alone." Ethan added, "We saved the reactor. We prevented a sector-wide disaster. I don't know why the bond happened, but it helped. And it can help more." One of the older Silverian representatives tilted her head. "But the human mind is volatile. Emotions, impulses, they are dangerous if shared through resonance." Lyra's voice was calm but firm, which is why trust is important. "The bond works only when both parties respect and understand each other. He trusted me. I trusted him. That is why we succeeded." The chamber remained silent. Ethan's heart pounded as he sensed eyes on him, judging, calculating, weighing every word. Finally, Alara spoke again. "The evidence is undeniable. They stabilized the core. No known technology could have done so alone. It is true, they are stronger together. Varric's eyes flashed. And what if it fails next time? What if their bond collapses under pressure? The station could be destroyed. Ethan stepped forward, feeling a surge of courage. Then we will learn. We'll train. We'll understand it. That's what humans do. We face challenges and find solutions even if the risk is high. But fear cannot decide our future. Action, courage, and understanding must. Lyra placed a glowing hand on his shoulder as if to amplify his words. This bond is not weakness. It is the first step toward better cooperation between species. Humans and Silverians can achieve things together that no one alone can. A wave of whispers moved through the chamber. Some skeptical members muttered among themselves, but others nodded slowly. The argument had shifted. After hours of discussion, the council finally convened its judgment. Ethan and Lyra stood together at the center of the chamber, hands brushing lightly. A silent acknowledgement of the trust and bond they shared. Lyra addressed them. Ethan Cross, Lyra of the Silverians, the council has considered your actions and your bond. While unusual, it has been proven to bring stability, courage, and results in situations of crisis. Therefore, the council rules as follows. She paused, allowing the moment to stretch. Ethan felt his chest tighten. You are allowed to continue your work together. Your bond is recognized as a potential asset to the station. However, you must undergo training under supervision to learn control and mutual guidance. Any misuse will result in further review. A collective sigh of relief escaped Ethan. Lyra's glow brightened, and for a brief moment she allowed herself a soft smile. Ethan laughed softly, feeling the tension leave his body. We made it, Lyra nodded. Together always. Varric's eyes narrowed, but he gave no further comment. Even he could not deny the council's decision. In the days that followed, Ethan and Lyra worked closely, exploring the limits of their bond. They trained together, learning to synchronize thoughts and emotions, discovering subtle ways to communicate without words. Their teamwork became legendary. Other humans and aliens began to see the bond not as a threat, but as a symbol of cooperation and understanding. Slowly, fear turned to respect and respect to admiration. One evening, after a long day of adjustments and calibration in the lab, Ethan and Lyra stood in the observation deck, watching the stars stretch endlessly before them. It's beautiful, isn't it? Ethan said, his eyes reflecting the glittering cosmos. Lyra smiled softly. Yes. It is even more beautiful knowing we share this moment. Ethan hesitated, then admitted quietly, I can't stop thinking about you. She looked at him, her glow brightening gently. Nor can I, and I do not wish to stop. Ethan reached for her hand, feeling the warmth of her presence even through the subtle pulse of her glow. So, whatever comes next, we face it together. Together, she said firmly. Weeks passed, and their bond became a symbol of hope on Orion Station 7. They were no longer just a human and a Silverian. They were proof that trust, courage, and understanding could cross species, cultures, and even worlds. Ethan grew in confidence, his skills as an engineer enhanced by the clarity Lyra's bond brought. Lyra, in turn, began to explore new applications of Silverian telepathy, guided by Ethan's ingenuity and human practicality. Their successes did not go unnoticed. Station administrators began to assign them to critical projects, missions that required coordination, creativity, and courage. And every time they succeeded, they proved something more than technical skill. They proved that humanity, with its courage and determination, could shine even among the stars. One quiet night, Ethan and Lyra stood in the central plaza of the station, surrounded by glowing signs of alien languages and soft hums of machinery. Crew members passed by, some waving, some smiling in recognition. Lyra tilted her head, watching the humans and aliens interact peacefully. It is strange, she said softly, how your presence has changed not only me but others. Humans, your species, it brings hope in ways few understand. Ethan chuckled. Humans are simple that way. We try, we fail, we try again. But we don't give up. Sometimes that's enough to make a difference. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly brighter. And yet it is your heart that guided us both. Not technology, not skill, your heart. Ethan smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. Then maybe this is just the beginning. Not only for us, but for everyone on this station. If humans and Silverians can find trust and understanding, maybe we can show the galaxy what cooperation really means. Lyra placed her hand lightly on his, the glow pulsing gently. Then we will face whatever comes next, together, side by side. Ethan nodded, feeling a certainty he had never known before. The stars stretched out endlessly before them, a promise of adventures yet to come. But for now he knew one thing with clarity. He had found someone who understood him, someone who could share not just thoughts but courage, trust, and hope. And in that moment Ethan smiled, knowing he could never stop thinking about her. Lyra's soft glow reflected in his eyes, and he knew she felt the same. Together they were stronger than fear. Stronger than doubt. Stronger than any challenge the universe could bring. And for the first time in his life, Ethan felt truly at home. Not on Earth, not on any station, but here among the stars, with Lyra by his side. The station would remember their bond. The galaxy might someday hear of it, but most importantly, they would remember it themselves. Every thought, every shared breath, every silent understanding between two very different beings who had discovered something extraordinary. They had faced fear, danger, and doubt. And together they had triumphed. Together they had begun a new era, not only for themselves but for humanity, for the Silverians, and perhaps, one day, for the stars themselves.